Hello everyone. Welcome to Social Security for EPFO. In the first class today, we shall discuss the concept of social security in India as well as the various social security schemes in India for the purpose of enhancing welfare of the labor class. Okay, let us begin. So, firstly, what is social security? Social security is the protection that a society provides to individuals as well as households to ensure access to healthcare and to guarantee income security, particularly in the few discussed cases above. Okay, so there are two things to note here. Firstly, is the beneficiary. Who is the beneficiary of social security? First, it is the individual because the individual ultimately carries the rights, and second is the household, which is a collective unit, the family, because ultimately the labor which is earning for multiple people. A laborer is earning not just for himself but for his family, for his children. A female laborer is also earning for her children, for her husband, for the overall nutrition of the entire household. So, therefore, there are these are decisions which are not just an individual's decisions, these are decisions that affect the entire family as a whole. So, therefore, the concept of social security takes care of both the individual who has to be given rights. Sometimes the individual has to be protected from the family itself, because there could be a case where the family sends their kid for child labor. So it is not just the family but the individual child also who has to be protected, right? But simultaneously, we also have to take care of the household. And there are two primary objectives that have to be ensured or guaranteed to all individuals and households under social security. First is income security, and second is healthcare. Why only these two? Because these comprise of most important the most important facets of life. Through income, you can purchase any goods and services. So, income brings you opportunity, it brings you choice. You can choose where you want to send your child to school. You can choose what car you want to buy. You can choose what kind of television you want to purchase as long as you have money. So that is first, and the second is healthcare. And health is equal to wealth. This is one of the most important things, that unless you have health, you will not be able to earn. And if you're not able to earn, then you will lose income also. So health is the most important, which is why access to healthcare comes before guarantee of income security, because this is where the largest and the most important part of expenditure happens. So these two, once they are granted in healthcare, by healthcare I mean nutrition, primary healthcare, secondary and tertiary healthcare. Even for example, if you're hospitalized, if you have to go through surgery, that is also included. Diagnostics, aftercare, all of these are important. Okay, so it is a broad term in which I mean healthcare as well as income. So healthcare gives someone life security, and income gives someone choice security. Okay, there are certain sections in society which are more prone to the loss of these options, both healthcare and income, and which is why social security is provided more potently to these sections of society. Okay, first is old age, elderly people. Why? Because they are past their prime. Statutorily, many have to retire. There are, if they are in government services, then they have to retire. They are replaced by new generation, which is faster, more adaptive, stronger, healthier. So they need income security as well as health security because they are more prone to disease, right? The more you age, the more prone to disease you become, right? So first is elderly, second is unemployed. Unemployed, why? Because they have no income, so they are likely to fall into the poverty trap. Poverty trap is that once you have no income, your health goes down, then you are unable to work, and this means you will have no income, and your health will keep deteriorating also, and therefore you will not be able to improve from the situation. In cases of sickness, because the health expenses are too high. In cases of invalidity, invalidity means disablement of permanent form, because now you can't work, especially for the labor class. If you are invalid, then you are unable to get employment anywhere. Why will someone hire you for the full wage? For work injury, for the same reason. For maternity, because you are required to care for a child, therefore unable to earn, and also need more medical access. The last is loss of a breadwinner, that if you lose the earning member of the family, then also you will need income security. Okay, so this is why we need income security for these different groups. There are 5 basic components of security. These were discussed in the Beveridge report of 1942. So the Beveridge report was from the UK Labour Party for suggesting reforms as to post World War II agenda on social security. This was one of the first this was one of the first measures of social security that were taken or announced. Prior to this, the concept of social security did not exist, but the very high inflation in society as well as other issues, they led to the formation of this report. So this was by an economist called Mr. Dr. William Beveridge. Okay, Dr. William Beveridge was an economist who identified 5 major problems in society that had to be resolved. These 5 evils, as the report called it, was want. Want means poverty, that you are lacking. By Dr. William Beveridge. Want, which is poverty, disease or sickness, ignorance, which is the lack of education, lack of knowledge, scholar, which means poor living conditions, and idleness, which is unemployment. Okay, so these were the 5 evils that the Beveridge report identified: want or poverty, disease and sickness, ignorance or lack of education, squalor or poor living conditions, and idleness or unemployment. So, for this, the Labour Party came up with a 5 point suggestion. First, to provide basic amenities such as food and shelter to eradicate poverty. First was basic amenities to eradicate poverty. Second was healthcare. The National Health Scheme was formed, the NHS in the UK, to provide immunity, social immunity against diseases. Third was a comprehensive state-backed education scheme to tackle the problem of ignorance or lack of education. Fourth was a focus on hygiene and sanitation to improve the urban living conditions. Living conditions specifically. And the last was employment. This was a post-war reconstruction plan called the Marshall Plan. Okay, to generate employment by improving the social security available in the society. So these were the 5 components of the Beveridge report, which was basically the first statement of social security in the entire world. Okay. Please also note that there was also a Social Security Act 1935 in the USA, which was meant to give pension to labor class. However, the Beveridge report was the first comprehensive statement that discussed social security holistically. Okay. Now we come to the World Social Protection Report of the International Labour Organization. We had discussed the scope of the ILO. The ILO also took up the idea of social security after the Philadelphia Declaration of 1944. We have discussed this in an earlier class. Okay. The World Social Protection Report provides a comprehensive analysis of the social protection systems and policies worldwide. The World Social Protection Report highlights the progress made in expanding social protection coverage and identifies the gaps that remain. For example, in the 2020 to 2022 report, the ILO noted that 47% or less than 50% population had access to at least one social security scheme. Okay, so a little less than 50% of the world had access, which was also divided by region. So for example, in Europe and Central Asia, 84% population has social security scheme access, whereas in Africa it is 17%. So this is something which identifies as gaps in social security that the ILO has identified. Okay. The report emphasizes the importance of social protection in promoting inclusive economic growth, reducing poverty and inequality, and achieving sustainable development goals, the SDGs. There are 17 SDGs, and the report discusses how social security can reach SDGs. It also discusses the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on social protection systems and the need for countries to strengthen and expand systems to better respond to future crises. The report provides recommendations for policymakers to build more effective, efficient, and sustainable social protection systems. There are no specific recommendations which are important from EPFO perspective. For those studying UPSC, you might go through them. It has statistics on uh, how many women. It says about 45% women receive maternity benefit, so about 55% are left out, etc. A lot of these statistics are given in this report. However, from the perspective of EPFO, this is not very important, so I am not going to cover the statistics given in the report beyond what I have already covered. Okay. Social security has been a very important part of the human rights discourse and the rights discourse in general. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, or the UDHR, which was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1948, recognizes the right to social security as a fundamental human right. Okay, so please see that this is the entire era when social security and labor rights were getting prominence, because after the Second World War in 1942 we already have the Beveridge Report. In 1944 we have the ILO's Philadelphia Declaration. In 1948 we have the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. All of these call for social security as well as labor welfare. So this is a very important time frame in which labor rights were being taken very seriously by the entire world. Okay. So let us see what the UDHR says. Article 22 of the UDHR states everyone as a member of society has the right to social security and is entitled to realization through national effort and international cooperation and in accordance with organization and resources of each state of the economic, social, cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and the free development of his personality. Okay, so basically, they have the right to social security and all such rights which are important for the free development of personality and dignity. These are what the Universal Declaration of Human Rights calls as a part of a fundamental human right. And please understand, this is one difference that we'll see between the UDHR and the ICESR, the International Covenant on Economic and Social Rights. We'll just discuss this. But UDHR gives rights. The ICESR only declares rights without much obligation upon the state. There is a slight difference that you will see in the language, and the political context for it will justify it. So, is entitled to realization through national effort and international cooperation and in accordance with the organization and resources of each state. So, this basically puts the onus on every state ultimately that if you have the resources, please guarantee everyone and provide to everyone the right to social security. Otherwise, there is no such requirement, because if you don't have the resources, then you will not do it. Simple. So, the UDHR only places the responsibility on the state according to their resources. Then, the next we have the International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights, the ICESCR. Okay. The International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights is a human rights treaty adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 1966. The ICESCR recognizes the right to social security as a fundamental human right and obligates state parties to take steps to realize this right. Okay. Article 9 of the ICESCR says the state parties to the present convention recognize the right of everyone to social security, including social insurance. The state parties to the present convention recognize that for those who are unable to secure the enjoyment of the rights set forth in the present covenant by their own efforts, state parties have the responsibility to undertake to ensure the necessary social security and shall take necessary steps, including through international assistance and cooperation, especially economic and technical, to the maximum of its available resources to achieve progressively the full realization of this right without prejudice to obligations contained in the present covenant to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights and fundamental freedoms. So, this is what I was talking about, that the UDHR gives rights to people. The ICSCR places obligations on states. It's a slight difference if you might have noticed. I probably notice this more because I am a lawyer, but there is a slight difference in the language, that the states now have an obligation and that is highlighted everywhere. Whereas in the UDHR, it was the right of the individual which was highlighted, and the states only had to ensure that they fulfilled the right. Now we come to the components of social security. Okay. What does social security consist of in material terms? Basically, what should the government actually give to the people for it to be counted as a social security measure? So, there are five components of social security. First is a cash transfer. This includes programs that provide regular cash payments to eligible individuals or households, such as social assistance, child benefits, unemployment benefits, pensions, etc. So you have different schemes such as Matru Vandana Yojana or Kisan Samman Nidhi or the self employment for manual scavengers, which provide either one time or routine cash transfers. Okay, so that they can stand on their own feet and they can improve generally in life. The second is healthcare. This includes programs that provide access to medical care, such as public health insurance, medical assistance, free or subsidized health services. So, for example, in government hospitals, you will get subsidized treatment. Further, there is the Jan Aushadhi scheme, the Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, which gives generic medicines. Then there is the Ayushman Bharat, the Jan Arogya Yojana, which gives health insurance. So, all of these are covered in the concept of healthcare, that you give medicines, that you give subsidized health treatment, and uh, also health insurance or health cover. Then we have social services. Social services include programs that provide support for basic needs and social services such as housing assistance, food assistance, education, child care, etc. So, PM Awas Yojana for housing, Swamitva scheme. Then there is the National Food Security Act or the PDS system for food security. Then we have the Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, as well as PM E-Vidya for education. Then we have the Integrated Child Development Scheme, as well as the Matru Vandana Yojana, which gives child care. So all of these are social service schemes. Okay, they provide social services which are basic necessities. Even schemes such as PM Ujala, which gives LED lights to everyone, Ujwala, which provides gas connection, These are also social service schemes. Okay. Then we have labor market programs. Labor market programs include programs that support employment and promote labor market participation, such as job training, employment services, and subsidies for employers to hire workers. So you have the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana, you have the PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana, the Grameen Kaushal Vikas, you have the Manrega for employment generation, you have National Rural Livelihoods Mission, you have the Skill India program. So all of these exist to provide and to increase labor market participation. And the last is social insurance. They provide protection against specific risks such as disability, old age, work related accidents through insurance programs which require contributions from the individuals or employers. Okay, so you have the Suraksha Bima Yojana, you have the Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana. All of these are social insurance measures. Okay, so these are the 5 components of social security. Now let us discuss the code on social security. The government in 2020 had replaced many existing laws with 4 labor codes. So about 29 labor laws were replaced with 4 labor codes. So we had discussed 3 in the last class. Now we are discussing the code on social security. So the social security code takes over or replaces 9 statutes. These are the following statutes that it replaces. First is the Employees Compensation Act 1923. Second is the Employees State Insurance Act of 1948. This is a central law. Okay. It says that State Insurance Act. However, this is not a state law. This is a central law. Third is the Employees Provident Fund and Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1952. Under this act, the EPFO, for which the exam that we are preparing for has been established. Then we have the Employment Exchanges Compulsory Notification of Vacancies Act 1959. Then we have the Maternity Benefits Act of 1961. Then we have the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. We have already discussed this in the labor law class on wages. Okay. Then we have the Cine Workers and Welfare Fund Act 1981. Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Cess Act 1996. And the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008. All of these 9 laws will be replaced by the Code on Social Security. However, this has not been notified yet. Okay. Merely if the parliament passes a law does not make it binding. The government has to notify the law. So unless these laws are notified, they will not become operational. And so as of now, the Employee State Insurance Act, the EPF Act, maternity benefits, payment of gratuity, all of these acts continue to remain relevant even today. So over the course of these classes, we shall be discussing the existing laws also. I am only giving you a brief overview of the Social Security Code so that later on you are aware of what differences have been set up. These are some of the salient features of the Social Security Code. There is protection to organized and unorganized sector. Next, the gig workers and platform workers are also protected. This provides for a definition because of the changed working surroundings. The 21st century has a new kind of labor. The gig worker. Okay, these are Uber drivers, delivery persons such as Zomato, Swiggy, etc. All of these will be part of the gig worker economy. And the platform workers, they did not exist earlier because web-based applications did not exist, so there was a clear uh, employee employer relation. But with the course of time, there is no human interface between the service provider and the service consumer. As an intermediary, there is only app, which may not be directly relevant to the business transaction. So, these gig workers and platform workers don't become employees of Uber or Zomato, and that leaves them outside of the entire social security net otherwise. So, therefore, you have these problems, which is why, to give them social security, the Social Security Code defines gig worker as a person who performs work or participates in a work arrangement and earns from such activities outside of traditional employer employee relationship. This is the most comprehensive definition under the code because it consists of all such activities outside of traditional employer employee relationship. The other definition is of a platform worker, who are mainly persons who provide services through web based platforms which act as an intermediary. This is a subset. Let us say this is the gig worker, a platform worker is only a subset of the gig worker economy. The Social Security Code also provides for setting up of call centers for unorganized workers helplines. Okay, often they are unable to avail of legal remedies because the employers are large, workers are small individually in resources. So therefore, these helplines will provide for legal remedies as well as inspectors for violation investigation. The next major feature is that there is overarching presence of digital compliance. Okay, all social security contributions can be made digitally, and all of these can also be verified online whether the person has received the services. These measures will be set up by the government. Okay, the code only provides for digital compliance. Therefore, it is upon the government to come up with such a system. Okay, these are the major salient features of the Social Security Code. We will also discuss some major provisions. Most of the things have remained more or less the same. The limits have changed, which I am not specifically discussing, because at present the code has not been notified yet. Okay, and a lot of things has been left for rules. We had discussed that much of the other laws also have the idea of prescribed in rules by the central government. So this is also something that is carried forward by the government into the Social Security Code also. Some other major provisions have provision for inspector cum facilitator to ensure social security policies are being followed. Earlier there used to be only inspectors, the labor commissioner, etc., who would inspect and fine for violation. Now there is a concept of facilitator, that you are inspector come facilitator, so you will help to identify flaws and give recommendations first. Only when the recommendations are not followed will you recommend a will you uh, levy a fine upon the failing employer. Otherwise, you will go, you will first inspect and see whether there are violations, then you will facilitate the employer in overcoming the violations. This will ensure that there is no undue harassment of the employers, because the inspector, it is also the inspector's job to ensure compliance, not just to collect fines. Some major points of change have been that there is no change in the provisions of maternity relief, that the concepts, the limits of 26 weeks which were prescribed in the Maternity Benefits Act, 26 weeks, that is what will continue in the Social Security Code. The cess for building and construction workers has been continued. Other cesses might be notified, but this cess for building and construction workers has been continued. Okay, these are some of the major provisions of the Code on Social Security. There are some new authorities which have been created under the Social Security Code. First is the Central Board for Provident Fund. The Central Board for Provident Fund will replace the Central Board of Trustees for EPFO. The second is the National Security Board for Unorganized Workers. National Social Security Board, sorry. The National Social Security Board for Unorganized Workers. Okay. The third is State Unorganized Workers Social Security Board at the state level. This was the national level, this is the state level. And the last is Building and Other Construction Workers Welfare Board for Pan India construction activities. Okay. We will discuss the EPFO provision separately in the class for EPFO. Now let us come to the schemes for social security in India. Okay, India is a welfare state. The constitution provides for various welfare measures to improve the equality as well as dignity and liberty of the individual. There is a very specific provision in Article 41 which provides for the social security provisions, the right to work, education, as well as public assistance in cases of unemployment, old age, sickness, and disablement, and in other cases of undeserved want, which is poverty. Okay, so this is what the Article 41 provides for. And there are multiple acts and schemes which give effect to the provisions for social security in India. So let us discuss those acts and provisions briefly. First, we have the con- acts and schemes for food security and basic amenities. Okay, so the most important food security schemes are public distribution system and the National Food Security Act of 2013. The PDS provides for ration shops, also called the fair price shops, for grain distribution. The NFSA provides for the NFSA covers about 75% of the rural population and 50% of the urban population of India, which is combined into 60% of the total population gets food security cover. Okay, please note that under the PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, 80 crore people will be given free grains every month. So this merges the NFSA and the PDS for the time being. Okay. Then we have the National Social Assistance Program. This provides for various pension schemes to different categories of people, such as the old age pension, the widow pension, disability pension, family benefit scheme, and the Annapurna scheme for food security. All of these come under the NSAP. Okay. Then we come to the ICDS. The ICDS is the Integrated Child Development Scheme. This provides for early child nutrition through Anganwadis. Okay. Then there is the Ayushman Bharat PM Jan Arogya Yojana. We will discuss this in the next class properly. There are other schemes such as Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. Ujjwala gives gas connection and to BPL houses. Okay, gas connection to BPL houses, and PM Awas Yojana, which aims for universal housing access. So these are some schemes for food security and basic amenities. Then we come to some schemes for income security. Okay, we will discuss all of these in the coming classes, these schemes. So I am not going to elaborate upon them very much. The PM Shram Yogi Mandhan Yojana, the PM Kisan Mandhan Yojana, the National Pension Scheme for shopkeepers, traders, self-employed persons, Atal Pension Yojana, PM Vaya Vandana Yojana, EPF and Miscellaneous Provisions Act, Payment of Gratuity Act we have already done, PM Kisan Samman Nidhi, PM Jan Dhan Yojana, National Pension Scheme, and the Sukanya Samriddhi Yojana. Okay, we will discuss most of these schemes in good detail. Only those which are related to the labor sector we will discuss in detail. The others, it is just important to know that these schemes also exist. Okay. Then we have the employment assistance programs, such as the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Act, or the MG Narega, which guarantees 100 days employment to all willing persons. This was the first time the right to work was properly given a statutory format. Then we have the Unorganized Workers Social Security Act, which provided for a social security fund for unorganized sector. We will discuss the e-Shram portal in the coming class. Then we have the Pradhan Mantri Rozgar Protsahan Yojana for boosting the economic scenario of the employers so that they can generate employment. Then we have the Atmanirbhar Bharat Rozgar Yojana. This also provides income benefits to employers so that they can provide better employment. Then we have the National Rural Livelihoods Mission, which engages self-help groups at the rural level. We have the self-employment scheme for manual scavengers, for rehabilitation of manual scavengers, which gives them 5 lakh rupees to restart their lives. And then we have PM Swanidhi, which helps street vendors. So these are some of the employment assistance schemes which help people to stand on their own 2 feet or to provide employment or to get employed in the first place. Another example could be the PM Kaushal Vikas Yojana, which provides for skill development of the workforce. There are other social assistance schemes also. We will not be discussing them properly because there is no specific point where they fall in, but there are one-stop center schemes for women welfare, Swadhar Graha scheme for juveniles, PM Matru Vandana Yojana for early child care. And we have the Pencil Portal, the Accessible India campaign, Rashtriya Vayoshri Yojana for disabled people, for old people, Maternity Benefit Act of 1962 for pregnant women, the PM Jeevan Jyoti Jeevan Jyoti Bima Yojana for life insurance, and the PM Suraksha Bima Yojana for accident insurance. We will discuss these two schemes in the next class in the part on insurance. Okay. So these were some of the components of some schemes for social security. Let us discuss some previous year questions. First, which one of the following is the correct set of contingencies identified by William Beveridge in his comprehensive social security scheme? A. Want, disease, ignorance, scholar, and idleness. B. Want, sickness, disability, scholar, and idleness. C. Want, disease, old age, scholar, and unemployment. Or D. Disease, invalidity, old age, unemployment, and ignorance. We had discussed the Beveridge report provides for these five, that want, disease, ignorance, scholar, and idleness. These were the contingencies identified by Dr. Beveridge. Okay, so the correct option is A. Next question. Everyone, as a member of the society, has the right to social security and is entitled to the realization through national efforts and international cooperation and in accordance with the organization and resources of each state of economic, social, and cultural rights indispensable for his dignity and free development of his personality. This statement has been uh, is emphasizing the importance of social security has been expressed in which of the following? A. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. B. Philadelphia Declaration of the ILO. C. Report of the First National Commission on Labor. Or D. The Directive Principles of State Policy of the Indian Constitution. We have studied all four of these documents. The correct answer is A. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Okay. Thank you.